This is Money Moves on VSiN, the sports betting network.
Argentina has finally found the back of the net, and it is exactly who you expect. Lionel Messi once again scores for Argentina. How about this? 2-0 in the 96th minute in extra time. So Argentina getting it done there. They're up 2-0 in the waning seconds. They will get that victory. Second hour, Money Moves, Jonathan Von Tobel here with you today. We will have, coming up a little bit later, an update on some of the later games in Argentina. But let's discuss some of the breaking news in the National Basketball Association. Trae Young. A lot of reports around Trae, whether or not he would actually remain with the Washington Wizards. Now, a lot of people freaked out when he exercised his player option, or at least declined it, I should say, and became an unrestricted free agent. But reports immediately followed that he was expected to re-sign with the Washington Wizards. Well, that has indeed been the case. As the news comes down, Trae Young will sign, according to sources, a new 4-year, $212 million contract with the Wizards. So what does that mean? Well, it's a couple of things. The first of which is early reports that Trae was potentially on the block to get dealt. Seems all but not going to happen. That ties into the Giannis Antetokounmpo sweepstakes because Miami, if they do not get Giannis, well, there's not many other places that they could go to. Maybe the Los Angeles Clippers with Kawhi Leonard could be an option to add to that team. We can discuss that. But at this point right now, with Trae Young slotted to stay with the Washington Wizards and the Wizards still in control of the first overall pick, that would also maybe put a dent in the thought of Darren Peterson joining the Washington Wizards via the NBA draft. Peterson has largely said in this process that he wants to be an on-ball guard. That's not going to happen with Trae Young. You'll have the ball in your hands, but not to the degree to which you're going to be the lead dude because Trae Young is there with this longer-term deal. Fourth year, by the way, with the player option. So does this mean that it locks in A.J. Debonsa with the first overall pick, who is over a $4 favorite to be selected by the Washington Wizards? Right now, you see these prices floating in the range of about a minus 425 favorite, minus 450, depending on where you look. The most expensive price on Debonsa over at BetMGM at minus 450. Darren Peterson plus 330 is the biggest price you're going to find on him right now, 3-1 on both DraftKings and BetMGM. But at the very least, the top of the draft right now, we do have a little bit of news, and that's that the Washington Wizards are at least linking themselves to Trae Young for the long term with a 4-year deal worth about $212.9 million. So not worth $212 million, at least in terms of value it is, but not what you have to pay. The NFL guides, make sure you check that out now, whether you're betting futures, win totals, division races, MVP, Rookie of the Year, Super Bowl odds. Our guide helps you get ahead of the market before training camp begins. Inside, you're going to find breakdowns of all 32 teams, projected win totals, best bets from VSiN experts, future analysis, power ratings, and more. Get it today with their football special for just $175. Sooner you sign up, the better, because you get everything we have from now into the Super Bowl. That includes the daily best bets, the betting splits from DraftKings and Circa, our AI-powered prop projections. I keep saying the player prop stuff that we have on the website, some of the most underrated thing that we have, 24/7 video and more. VSiN.com/subscribe. That's VSIN.com/subscribe. In the guide, we have a lot of good feature articles, and I thought one of my favorites that I was reading was from Zach Cohen about our contenders worst to first. So we know the cliche, all of these teams, especially in the NFL, a league loaded with parity. The teams that can finish last in their division the next year can obviously make that leap and get it done. And there's obviously 8 candidates every single year to do so. So we have our worst to first candidates for the 2026 NFL season. We have them in order of their win total here and odds to win the division. And I think the obvious answer to this question is going to be the Detroit Lions. Not only are they, the Lions, the team of those that finished last in their division a season ago, sporting the highest win total and, of course, at the top of their division in terms of the odds. They also have the easiest schedule in the National Football League. Going back to our conversation earlier about these teams that maybe could make the leap, again, if you're betting some of these win totals over, it would, I think, benefit you to look at some of the alternate win totals, as Adam Burke has pointed out in one of his feature articles about the regularity with which these teams miss the mark in terms of what the preseason win total is. The Lions are going to be a really popular selection, given everything they have in front of them and the easiest schedule. I know Mitch Moss is infatuated with this Lions team. We'll talk more about that on Tuesday's episode of Pod to the Futures. Check that out wherever you get your podcast. We'll have an NFL special coming up this week. But I do think the Lions, obviously, you have to start the conversation. Worst to first contenders with the Lions, given everything they have going for them coming into this year. Easy and simple. The Saints now come up as our next team. Win total 7.5, shaded to the under at shaded to the over minus 120, plus 425 to win the NFC South. They are in a division that is perfectly winnable. I'm somebody that likes the team projected to finish last, the Atlanta Falcons, win total 6.5 there. But the Saints have some signs of growth. Tyler Shuck was obviously really strong at the end of the year last year with the way that he was playing. Made some believe that he can make a push for Rookie of the Year. Didn't really get close to winning it, but at least showed the upside as the season came to an end that he was going to potentially have the Saints in the proper direction. If you look at it from a division standpoint, win total 7.5. There's a lot of different things you could look at with the Saints team that I think would tempt you to believe they could actually get this thing done. And I think they're going to be one of the more popular selections. And as well as teams like the Detroit Lions, one of the easier schedules in the National Football League. So New Orleans, if the growth of Tyler Shuck is going to be there and their division is as winnable as it looks, then that's going to be something I think totally makes some sense that you want to buy in on them, buying in on them finishing first in the division in the NFC South. Once you get past New Orleans, though, I think you get into some gray area personally. But the New Orleans Saints and the New York Giants are two teams that you hear a lot about in this offseason as potential massive improvers from where they were a season ago. Giants win total 7.5. It's pick both sides minus 110. These numbers courtesy of DraftKings, by the way. About 6-1 to win that division. Personally, my selection for the guide was the Dallas Cowboys to win the NFC East. But you understand that with the coaching change, with Harbaugh coming in, running this thing, the upside of Jackson Dart and the skill position talent that they have, if and when they are fully healthy, I think you worry a little bit about the wide receiver core, though, as you get closer and closer to camp getting started. We're about a month away from there, but still, I think you worry about what this is going to look like from a pass catcher standpoint. But if Dart can continue to improve, is the expectation, and John Harbaugh deserves some credit. He was at least on that. He was running that staff that helped Lamar Jackson become a perennial MVP candidate. So the expectation that this Giants team is heading in the right direction, and rightfully so. And I think you like what they have up front on defense. Going from worst to first, though, in the division is another thing. I think winning 9 games, the potential for the New York Giants is there. But finishing ahead of a team like Dallas, who's, I think, going to have one of the best offenses in the National Football League. They were a top 10 team in terms of efficiency a season ago. Bring a lot back from last year's team on offense. Should continue to head in that direction and have one of the more underrated play callers in the NFL in Schottenheimer. And then we just know the consistency the Eagles can provide on a year-to-year basis. Hard to believe that the Giants are going to be one of these teams that can go from worst to first in terms of their division, but definitely a candidate to go over their win total. I think the Titans do provide some really interesting conversation, though, when it comes to the AFC South. Now, the Jacksonville Jaguars obviously finished well over double-digit wins a season ago, and then you still have the Houston Texans, who are very good. Texans, though, have one of the hardest schedules in the NFL. Titans have a relatively easy schedule. This is all whether or not improvement at the quarterback position is really going to take hold when you look at the Titans, because I do think Cam Ward has the upside when you look at his overall skill set. You look at what he's got at the skill positions. I think it's relatively improved heading into the year. Dable as a play caller, I think, as we go back to his time with the Buffalo Bills, was very, very good. I think the staff has done a really good job in improving this team on defense. And then you just look at where this team is in the division. I think the Colts are being a little overrated, as we have discussed a couple of times here on this program. It does seem like Daniel Jones is trending toward potentially being ready at the start of the year. But there's a Colts team that lost a lot on a defense that wasn't particularly great. It was very, very lucky a season ago in terms of forcing turnovers and then scoring off of said turnovers. But once that evaporated, we saw exactly what the Colts were as that season came to an end. So I think you can easily leapfrog Indianapolis. Now the question becomes, will you be able to beat out Jacksonville? Will you be able to beat out Houston? Crazier things have happened. It's not like this Tennessee team's got nothing going for it. We also know that the Texans offense, again, one very, very inefficient group that would look awful as the season went along. And of course, as the season came to an end in the postseason. And the Jacksonville Jaguars, a team that I think would take a step back from where they were a season ago. I don't think it would be crazy if the AFC South was again won by 9 or 10 wins and the Titans would be able to find themselves in the mix. It is a large leap, though, for Tennessee. And I think that if you're banking on the Titans making some sort of improvement, going back to our original conversation of betting an alternate win total over 7.5 or over 8.5, or potentially asking them to make the playoffs would be a little bit better or a little bit even easier mark to make if you're the Tennessee Titans as opposed to winning the AFC South. Our next 4, it's a little bit more difficult to actually make the realistic jump from worst to first. The Jets, 5.5 shaded to the over at minus 120. We've discussed them before. As I have said, I think they can get to 6 wins, potentially. We had some news over the weekend, or not real news, but some accusations of Geno Smith. So we'll see what comes of that. Cleveland Browns at 5.5 shaded to the over at minus 146. An easy schedule, but a quarterback position that is absolutely a nightmare, at least on paper, unless Deshaun Watson can make some sort of step toward the guy that he was at the end of his time with the Houston Texans, that seems to be a team that's probably going to be middling around 5.5 or 6 wins and not really making a push in a division that has a potential Super Bowl contender, 2 of them, in Baltimore and Cincinnati. I think the Raiders are a really good team to potentially ask to go over their win total. And again, look at some of these alternate win totals over. But winning a division that's going to have a Kansas City Chiefs team that, when now fully healthy at the quarterback spot, is going to be one of the best in the NFL. And then the Arizona Cardinals, with the hardest schedule in the NFL, the win total of 3.5, and a division that's got the Seattle Seahawks and the Los Angeles Rams. Hard to realistically think that this team is going to win the division. You can see that at 100-1 over at DraftKings in the NFC West. Fitting that they're all the way down there. Arizona and Miami are 2 teams. I'm generally one that will try to reach out and catch the falling knife when it comes to some of these teams. They're never as bad as it really looks. These schedules are really challenging for both Arizona and Miami, but Arizona specifically, when you've got 6 games against the 49ers, Seahawks, and Rams, and the schedule that you do have outside of the division, it is hard to foresee this team looking over 3.5. And in fact, could you look at them in an alternate win total under 3.5 and have them flirt with potentially 1 or 2 wins this season would potentially be the case. But Arizona, hard to make a case for them to go over. But out of all of these, it really does look like New Orleans is going to be pretty popular, can understand it. But for my money, and it's not really going out on a limb, Detroit is going to be the team that is definitely worth looking at here. Plus 180 to win their division, and a team that is going to be in contention for the number 1 seed in the NFC, given what's in front of them from a scheduling standpoint. The Lions are primed to go from worst to first in their division. Don't take my word for it, though. Go check out everything we have to offer. Go to vsin.com/subscribe. The NFL Guide, absolutely fantastic. Ton of great content in there from everybody here at the network, including our guy Berkey, who is all over it this entire time. He'll be with us tomorrow. Coming up on the other side, let's take a look at the world's game. Malcolm Bamford's going to join us next. SGP Network, SGP Premier Podcast. Get some soccer bets for us.
Hey, let me get your attention real quick, podcast listeners. I've got something for you that feels too good to be true. First, credit where credit is due. If you're listening to this podcast, you're already leveling up your betting game. You're riding along with our best bets and top angles. And when there's a good game on, you're probably getting involved with a few props and alt markets as well. But there's one more layer if you really want to step things up, and that's VSiN Pro. Yeah, I've mentioned it before, but things are only getting better for our pro subscribers. We just rolled out our MLB prop projections, breaking down some of the best edges across strikeouts, hits, home runs, and more. And that's on top of everything else pro subscribers already get, including public betting splits, expert picks, and betting guides across the sports calendar. If you haven't tried it yet, stop sleeping on it. You can get your first month for just $9.99 or save big with promo code POD26 on an annual subscription. Hit the link in the description and start cashing in with VSiN Pro. All right, now back to the show.
You're watching Money Moves here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
Final, and one bettor out here in Las Vegas is happy. $777,000 to win $361,395 on Argentina, minus 215 on the 3-way, and courtesy of 2 goals from Lionel Messi, should have been 3, and they are going to get this done. Messi alone now for the all-time top scorers in the FIFA World Cup. He sits with 18, should have been 19. Let's discuss that and much more. Malcolm Bamford's with us here. You can find him, SGP Network, host of the SGP and Premier Podcast as well. Let's talk a little soccer here, some football. And Mal, let's just start with this. I mean, he's got 5 goals through 2 games. He should have 6, considering he missed a penalty earlier. Golden Boot, all of these guys have been competing really hard, it seems, right away for this thing. But with a lead like this at the start and another group match left, what kind of a lead are we talking about with Messi in terms of his ability to win this award now that he's off to this start?
Firstly, I'd just like to confirm that was not me with the $777,000 bet, unfortunately. I wouldn't be sitting here talking to you if it was.
Right.
I mean, all the big players have turned up, haven't they? Which is what FIFA wanted. It's what the USA wanted. It's what all football fans wanted. We see Mbappe score twice on the same day that Haaland scored twice, on the same day that Messi had a hat-trick. Then Mo Salah joined in last night. Harry Kane joined in. It's the premium players have turned up, which is absolutely wonderful for the tournament. And then Lionel Messi, I'll be honest, I watched quite a lot of MLS and he's okay, but it's set up for him to succeed. it's a little bit easier for him. And I can't believe what he's doing. This Argentina team is unashamedly built around Lionel Messi. And why not? Like, why would you not just give him one more chance? Because he's very, very capable. There's going to be tougher tests ahead. And he did miss that penalty today. But he's got that lead, like you say. I mean, Mbappe will be kicking off in 45 minutes' time. He's only 3 behind, and he gets Iraq tonight. This could go to the wire. This could be an all-timer. We could be looking at 8, 9, 10 goals by the end of the tournament. It should be a great race.
All right, let's talk about the French then, who do get Iraq later today. Like you mentioned, 2 p.m. Pacific time, so you got about an hour and 45 minutes. Iraq kind of got bullied by Norway a bit in their first group play matchup here. Is the expectation that France will be able to do the same today?
I thought Iraq were a little bit unfortunate. I thought the scoreline against Norway was skewed ever so slightly. And Norway have that big bully. Where Iraq struggled, and you could see when the first corner kick was given, all the Norwegians were 6'5", and all the Iraqi lads were 5'10", and eventually it had to pain them, and it did. They got the set-piece goal in the end. France took a little while to get going against Senegal. Senegal are a very, very good team. I think Senegal can make a deep run in this tournament. We'll talk about them in a little while. But the France attackers should pose a problem for Iraq tonight. They did end up conceding 4 goals. The line here at -2.5, the line's actually moved from -2.5 towards -3 for France. I don't mind -2.5, not necessarily a working man's price, but -2.5, -3 on the Asian line at -105. And we take the push at 3. My correct score, I've got France winning 4-1. It's 16-1. So we're hovering very much around that -3 line. If you don't want France on the handicap, maybe a France team total of over 3.5 goals, because they have got all those premium players up front. There's a French player that I like as for a prop this evening, and it's Michael Olise, just because Mbappe is very, very short, with good reason. But Michael Olise has been an absolute joy to watch this season. One of my favourite footballers. He's just been a dream in the Champions League. He's an absolute Rolls Royce. So Michael Olise to score a goal tonight is round about +140, I think. But 2 or more goals for Michael Olise, because we think there might be 4 or 5 goals in this for France. 2 or more Michael Olise goals is +550, and I think he can get on the score sheet tonight.
All right, let's talk about France's first opponent that we saw. You mentioned Senegal pushed them a little bit. It was a scoreless first half, really blew up in the second half against them. Today, what are we expecting against Norway? This should be the game of the day. It would look like on paper. It should be a lot of fun, maybe some scoring, but what's your expectation for this one between these two?
I really gave myself no choice in this game, but to be on the side of Senegal, because coming into the tournament, I was quite low on Norway. I was very high on Senegal, and they've ended up meeting. So Senegal at +220 on the money line is my play. Senegal should have been at least 1 up at half-time against France, possibly 2. They hit the post, and then right on half-time, Ismail Assar lifted one over the crossbar from about 4 yards out. And then France punished them in the second half, which is reasonable. Norway are quite functional, and they have that X factor in Erling Haaland, that big Norwegian Viking of a man who will just score goals. But the rest of the team's pretty average. Player for player, I think Senegal are a better team. I don't mind the Senegal team total over 1.5. If you want to ladder it up to over 2.5, it's 6-1 for Senegal. I had to factor Senegal in here. I don't think there's enough between these two teams for Norway to be +120 and Senegal to be +220. So for me, I'll just take a plain old Senegal money line. I think they're great value.
Okay, I like it. All right, Senegal. That should be right now in the range of just over 2-1 if you lower at the DraftKings as well, and other spots +235 if you wanted to give that a tail. Last game of the night, Jordan and Nigeria. Yeah, right. We're looking at the screen right now, so it is for audience as always. Shop around for what you've got. Let's go to the last game of tonight before we maybe get to some big topics before we get you out of here. Jordan and Algeria. What's the expectation? Should be a fun game on paper between two relatively even matched teams.
I agree. Yeah, it should be a really good game. This group I had down as one of the more offensive groups in the tournament. I thought there was going to be a lot of goals, and I think people see the names of Jordan and Algeria, and historically these teams were quite pragmatic, quite stoic, quite defensive. But they're not anymore. They're very modern football teams. They're very front foot and attacking football teams. Jordan served it up to Austria, scored a goal. They were in that game right until Austria scored the late penalty. Jordan were in the game. And Algeria were a whisker away, an offside decision away from going 1-0 up against Argentina and gave them a very good game. This is almost a glorified knockout match. Either of these sides, they know they get to 3 points, they can make it. And this is the game they will have circled when the draw was made months and months ago. They will have circled this game as the one. So these two teams will go hell for leather at each other. I do not see this being cagey. They've got nothing to gain from a cagey game. So, yeah, goals. It could go either way. Both teams to score, I think, is overpriced at -105. I like the over 2.5 at -111. I think Jordan are overpriced. This looks like a toss of a coin to me rather than a +450. So I don't mind Jordan on the double chance. That's a big price. My main play would be both teams to score in over 2.5, which is +140. 1-1 with 20 minutes left, and then we'll just say everyone go for it. Someone nicks it 2-1. I don't know who, but someone will nick it 2-1. So, yeah, both teams to score, over 2.5 goals, +140.
All right, so now that we're into this point where some teams are clinching their spots into the knockouts, we're getting some of these meaningless final group games. Mexico and the U.S. are two teams that have a final group stage contest that doesn't mean anything to them. We saw news today that the Mexicans are going to start Memo Ochoa in goal to give him one last start before they head off into the knockout round. How do you handle some of these games that have no meaning for one side or maybe both sides as they wrap up their group stage and look forward to knockout play?
It's really difficult. It's tricky. And actually, I started handicapping these games today, and I did have to have a little scratch of my head for 10 minutes just to think, where do you go? I think you have to handicap it as if it was match day one, because it's a World Cup. You get 3 games. You don't get to take a day off. You get one chance every 4 years. And then even if they make some changes, if they make 3 or 4 changes, those players who come in, that's then their one chance every 4 years. It's their one chance to impress the coach and say, right, play me in the knockout stage. I can score 2 goals for you. Don't underestimate the national pride, especially with some of the smaller nations who might never, ever get back. They're not going to take a day off. If the Czechia in this situation, because they're unlikely to qualify, they're not going to phone it in. They're absolutely going to go for it. So I would just handicap it as if it was a match day one game. I really do. USA don't want to break the momentum, for example. Momentum is a real thing in sport. We are all sports fans. We're all sports bettors. You know momentum is a real thing. If Pochettino pumped the brakes here, had a day off, and then USA struggle to get that momentum back, it would just be suicide. I don't get it. And again, he makes some changes. I don't know who comes in. Reina comes in, maybe. Players like that. They're going to want to impress. They're going to want to stake a claim. So I would handicap it fully as if it's live match day one. Both teams are trying their best. Teams have a DNA, and it's very difficult to get away from that.
Malcolm, we appreciate a couple minutes. Thanks, man. That was awesome. We'll have you on again soon. Thank you, sir.
You're very welcome. Thank you. Cheers.
Again, at Mal_B_sport. We'll come back, hit a little baseball on the other side.
Watching Money Moves here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
If you need your continued fix of coverage for the FIFA World Cup, make sure you go to vsin.com. Check out everything we have to offer up on the website. That includes some of the articles from our homegrown talent here. Alex Blowers has been doing a great job, as has Luke DeVosta, with some of the written articles for the World Cup. Everything that you need in terms of those up at vsin.com. sportsbetting.com. But we head to Major League Baseball as we have a deep card today. A lot of good pitching matchups as well. So we need the help of an expert. Let's head out. MLB Dream's with us here. FTN Fantasy, you can check it out over there. All of the work. Got to talk a lot about what's going to happen on the diamond here today. Dream, we appreciate a couple of minutes. Let's start with just one of the better pitching matchups that we're going to see here today as the Houston Astros are going to trot out Hunter Brown for a second start coming off of the injured list. Dylan Cease is going to oppose him. But what have you made from Brown after his one start back from the IL, and how does he match up with Cease? And are these two dudes just low-hanging fruit, and we're going to get a low-scoring pitcher's duel today?
Hey, man. Well, first of all, thanks for having me on. Yeah, this is one of the, obviously, like you said, the best pitching matchup on the card. It always takes me a little minute to, I guess, figure out what a pitcher is doing when he's coming back from a rehab start. I know Brown was in like low A or something like that, but he looked great in his debut. This is one where, like, I don't really love going full game unders, but I am liking the 7.5 here. I also thought about maybe teasing it down to a flat 7 if I could get that at plus money. But both pitchers look pretty good in this matchup. Toronto hasn't been great at the plate. I looked a little bit at Brown's strikeout prop as well, but Toronto just strikes out. I think they have the 18% strikeout percentage against righties over the last 14, which is the lowest in baseball. And then I thought that Cease would be good for 6, but I didn't want to push for the 7th K there. So if anything on this one, I think this is one that I really want to watch, and I don't know if I'll end up pulling the trigger on the under 7.5 here.
All right. What about in the same league? Because we actually have a lot of these good pitching matchups, but all of them happen to be occurring in the American League. Garrett Cole and Framber Valdez. Cole, initially, you look at some of the metrics. We were talking about this earlier on the show. There's some weird ones. You know, he's not challenging guys and having a ton of success, but the ERA is solid. He's about a $1.25 favorite on the road. Totals 8.5 against Valdez and the Tigers. What do you see here?
Yeah, I mean, like you said, it's a little weird what we saw from Cole, especially early. I think the splits against the Guardians kind of, mess with his swinging strike percentage a little bit just because they're so disciplined and they don't chase. So his swinging strike percentage is way down around 7% in the single digits, and his zone contact percentage was way up around 92%. The one thing I did notice is his called strike percentage is about 3 to 4% higher than it has been for his career. So I think he's okay. He looks good. I think we're just going to have to wait and see for him to get his full control back. And that'll happen, with more time out there. This is one where I like the Yankees on the side here. I haven't been doing great on sides this year, so it's probably one I'll leave off the card, and I'm sure it'll be an easy winner that way. But I find myself liking the Yankees here around like minus 125, minus 130.
All right. All of these guys have been pitching relatively well, but I don't think there are many pitchers who are hotter than Drew Rasmussen, who is going to start for Tampa Bay here today. Absolutely unreal what we've seen from him. 21 innings over his last over his last 3 starts, at least 7 innings pitched in those. And of course, a grand total of 29 strikeouts over those 3 outings. He is a very heavy favorite today against Michael Wacha and the Royals, upwards of $1.90 favorite. Do the hapless Royals have a chance here against Rasmussen?
And the thing that really jumps out to me here is the Royals team total at 2.5. You don't see a 2.5 that often. And I think Rasmussen's earned run prop is at 1.5. So it's hard not to like him today. I mean, I think you're going to notice here a common theme here with these games that we've talked about so far. I didn't love anyone from the betting side on this one. The closest thing I came to playing here was Rasmussen over 17.5 outs at around minus 160. But cash just always kind of screws with me and screws with the usage. He should go 6 here. And again, Tampa should win a low scoring one, but I didn't have any action in this one either.
All right, let's go to the National League here with us because MLB Dream, you can follow him up on X, lead betting analyst over there at FTN. Let's talk about Imanaga and Senga because this is a pretty interesting matchup. It's kind of the opposite of what we've just been talking about in the American League. These two not really in great form, especially Senga, but we know he has been better in his career. Cubs are about a $1.20 favorite on the road. What do we do? Total 8.5 shaded to the over. Is this too easy? Much like we talked about some of these other pitching matchups, but the inverse of it. Are we looking at a high-scoring affair between these two out there in New York?
I mean, yeah, you nailed it, right? Like I lean Cubs and the over here. Senga looked pretty bad versus the Reds. I'm actually wondering if the Mets are just better off moving him to the bullpen. I know they're thin on starting pitching, but I mean, this guy just has had so much trouble staying healthy. It just might be the best move for his career. He didn't have great control against the Reds, which is, I guess, something kind of we've been used to, but the swinging strike stuff was there. He was missing plenty of bats. He didn't really pitch that deep. And the bullpen issues that the Mets have had lately too, it's really hard not to lean over on this one as well. And you mentioned, Show, that he looked great in his last start, if I'm not mistaken, but I want to say the 3 previous, he was giving up 5, 6, 7 runs. You pretty much nailed it, man. It's either over or stay away in this one. And I think I'm leaning towards staying away.
All right, let's stay in the division because a lot of us, I shouldn't say I have been kind of waiting for this St. Louis Cardinals thing to expire, and maybe we are starting to see that. They're 4-6 in their last 10 games, starting to show signs of some leakage here, but they're a $1.44 favorite to show with Palante on the hill against Merrill Kelly and the Arizona Diamondbacks. Have we reached that expiration date with the Cardinals, and do you like anything in this one?
I'm actually shocked that the Cardinals have been as good as they have been. And it looks like a lot of the trades that Chaim Bloom made in the offseason have been working out pretty well for him. The Red Sox kind of need a GM like that or head of baseball operations like that. And to be honest with you, about half my plays on today's slate so far are in this game. The Cardinals have just been raking versus right-handed pitching. They had a 142 runs created plus over the last 14 and about 350 at-bats, if I'm not mistaken. I'm not a big Palante guy. He's a guy that always outperforms his advanced stats, and he just does a good job of keeping the ball on the ground. But I will happily fade Merrill Kelly here. He's just been horrible for his lefties and just bad in general. So, I don't recommend playing 3 different bets in one game. Maybe if you want to put a same game parlay together here or just something to reduce the risk a little bit. But I did bet the Cardinals at -135. I also bet their team total at over 4.5. I got plus money there, which kind of pushed me over the edge. And I also back Alec Burleson here. Over 1.5 hits, runs, RBIs. He just absolutely shreds Merrill Kelly's pitch mix. He rakes against righties as well. So I like the Cardinals in this one. Don't love that I have so many plays in one game, but I couldn't really help it here.
Let's stick with the central theme, though, because Milwaukee's on the road against Cincinnati, and we've seen the market come in on the Reds today. The circuit where I'm sitting at opened up -165 in favor of the Brewers, +145 coming back. Now we're down to -145, +130. What do you see, or what does the market see here? Would you agree with this movement that Brady Singer and the Reds are getting some love today at the window?
I don't disagree with it. I brought this up with Hunter Brown. It's kind of the same thing with Woodruff here. He pitched in high A ball, and then I think pitched at the complex in Florida. I don't really know what to make of that. Like, he didn't look good in those rehab starts. Bad either. But we're talking about 12% swinging strike percentage in high A ball playing against the 20-year-olds. Like, that doesn't really give confidence in wanting to back him. Also, I think he gave up maybe 3 runs in each start. Again, facing a bunch of guys that, 70% of them won't even sniff the major leagues. So I leaned over here. I went with another hitting prop here, just taking the easy one of fading Singer. A lot of the Brewers props are juice, but I did go Jake Bauers here over 1.5 hits, runs, RBI. I really like that prop market. Like, you don't need him to get a home run. You don't need him to always get the 2 bases. And if you're expecting runs, which I kind of am here, hopefully Bauers gets it done for us.
So how do you handle some of these guys? Because I always like to say, right, there's noise in some of these pitching statistics, especially if you're doing the pitches to contact. I bring that up because Foster Griffin's going to get a start today, and some of the underlying metrics would tell you that at some point he should get knocked around, but he continues to pitch as well as he does, and he opposes the Phillies. He's about a $1.20 favorite, but hard contacts, ground ball guy, some of those dudes will have noise in their profiles. You want to play against them, but every time it doesn't really work out. How do you handle a dude like Griffin?
No, exactly, right. And I mentioned with Palante, too. It's like you'll go broke waiting for that regression monster to show up. And this is actually one I didn't dive too deeply into it. I was waiting for the Phillies to come out with an official starter. They're deciding to open with Meza, and I think a rookie is coming up. But, man, you mentioned Griffin. I mean, he's been great coming back, I think, from the NPB last year. But like you said, we're expecting some regression with a left on base percentage over 80%, BABIP of around 250. And, he's a lefty, and what the Phillies' best hitters are mostly lefties here. So I didn't get too deep into this one. I don't know what to make of Griffin in this matchup. What I wanted to look into, and I'll probably do that when we hop off, is when the Nats are facing a righty, it's basically like, okay, am I going to go James Wood here, who leads the majors in barrel percentage, or CJ Abrams in another home run, hits, runs, RBI prop? And that's kind of where I'll look into the pitch mix and kind of see who matches up better against them. And as long as they're not over like around -160, that's probably where I'll end up here.
Dream, we're up against it, but thank you very much for the time, man. That was awesome.
Appreciate it, man.
At MLB Dream, you can follow him up there. Lead MLB betting analyst over at FTN. Sports calendar, as you probably know by now, folks, never stops, and the Sharp Plays covers it all. And they've been winning for 15 straight years. All of it documented, logs posted publicly at sharpplays.com. That kind of transparency rare in this industry. When the Sharp Plays move, the sports books take notice. Advanced AI, trusted insider intel. They find the value before the numbers shift. Respected, watched, and feared. Start winning with them at sharpplays.com. All right, we have a little bit of news in the National Basketball Association. We'll hit that. One market has moved in this direction. We'll tell you where and why. And we also have a winner-take-all Game 3 in the College World Series. Take a quick look at that, too, before we get out of here on Money Moves.
You're watching Money Moves here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
Last couple of minutes here on the program. Remember, coming up next, follow the money. You know that, as they will take over the desk and have a lot for you over the next 3 hours. Keep it tuned here. And remember, VSiN.com/subscribe. Check out everything we have to offer up on the website, and that includes the NFL guide, hot off the presses, and everything up that we provide too. Tons of great World Cup coverage from our guys, Alex Blowers, Luke DeVosta, who will be previewing and producing. I shouldn't say previewing, producing. Follow the money coming up next. Stormy back tomorrow. She is out. Did she go? Was it San Diego this week? California next week? I don't know what. Or is it Disneyland? Yeah, Disneyland. Apparently, you get discounts and whatnot. Never offered us though, huh? No discounts for us. Yeah, free tickets for ESPN employees. I thought it was just heavily discounted. Wow, look at that. Wow, must be nice. Stormy will be back tomorrow, though, as she went out there to Southern California. Let's take a look at a couple of things. First off, I just want to mention, because I said this in passing going out, that we have an update, just a small update in the association, because I do value a little bit more some of the line moves you see for a draft in the 24-ish hours leading up to the actual draft itself. And now we're starting to see just a little bit, but we're starting to see some of that here. AJ DeBonta is now at DraftKings minus 500 to go with the first overall selection. That is the highest price that I have seen to my memory in recent weeks. He's been floating around that $4, $4.50 range. So 50-cent movement, maybe not the biggest thing in the world. That does come on the heels of Trae Young signing his extension. So maybe the market is just factoring in the fact that Trae Young has been signed, is a lead guard, and thus maybe would not fit as well with Darren Peterson. We had discussed that when we brought up the Trae Young extension and him signing it. For those who had missed it, 4 years, about $212 million for Trae. The fourth year is a player option. So he re-signs with Washington. Much ado about nothing for anybody who was freaking out about him slashing and declining his player option in his most recent contract, because this was the plan all along. Brian Windhorst, initially reported that it was going to be about a 3-year deal. It ends up being 4, the fourth being a player option. So just worth pointing out, DeBonta upwards of minus 600 over at BetMGM as well. So that does come on that news. Maybe the market knows something, or maybe the market's just reacting to the most recent bit of news that Trae Young has re-signed. I would say this. If the market's reacting to Trae Young re-signing with the Wizards, that move is inaccurate, because it was largely expected that Trae Young would do just that. So nothing has changed for the Washington Wizards since the report that he was going to decline his player option, and since re-signing, that was always going to be the plan. And I don't think that you would move DeBonta upwards from minus 425 to minus 600 based on that alone. They did not change their plans to draft whoever they were going to draft post re-signing Trae Young. So that's just worth pointing out to me. The other thing we should hit on in the association before we get to the College World Series and then on to the best bets is just really briefly, because we didn't have a ton on this, we are still waiting for what's going to happen with Giannis Antetokounmpo. But I do think it's worth pointing out what some of these packages are going to look like. And Shams Charania did have a very, I thought, impactful report earlier today on ESPN, on Get Up, because it was largely expected that if this deal was going to happen, that there was going to be a third team involved, especially when it came to a team like the Miami Heat. The potential packages had included a Tyler Hero being flipped out there to Detroit, which I actually thought is pretty decent in terms of fit. I think Hero's a little overrated, but if the Pistons were going to be able to somehow land Tyler Hero throughout all of this, a team that desperately needed spacing and a secondary scorer, that's a square peg, square hole kind of fit for a team like Detroit. Would really worked for them. But Shams comes on ESPN's Get Up this morning, and says that there will be no third team involved in any deal. That as it stands at the time of the report, that it is going to be a 1-to-1 team. So it is either going to be Milwaukee and Miami, or it's going to be Milwaukee and Boston in terms of the trade for one Giannis Antetokounmpo. What is apparently holding this up are multiple things. This is from Jake Fisher, who works for the over at the Steinline blog there. A split faction of Milwaukee's decision makers, sources say, is deciding between Boston's package for Giannis Antetokounmpo built around Jaylen Brown, where the Bucks also hold particular Hugo Gonzalez interest, plus limited draft capital, compared to Miami's offer of younger pieces featuring Tyler Hero, Kello Ware, Jaime Jaquez, and multiple first-round picks. As Fisher puts it, the established MVP candidate versus greater overall value is what this whole saga has boiled down to one day before the NBA draft. So Giannis still has yet to find his new home. It does seem that Boston, if you were to have a leader, is the leader right now for landing him only because they boast the bigger prospect chip piece, whatever term you want to use, in Jaylen Brown. So we'll see if that's enough to push the edge and whether or not the Celtics want to budge. There was also some other limited reporting, not from as reputable sources, but still from people around the league that have stated that Pat Riley and the Heat are balking at including so much. Now, whether it is all three on the table, Hero, Ware, Jaquez, maybe they don't want to include as much, whatever it's going to be, it does seem like Miami is not really ponying up everything possible it could, and that the Bucks are maybe holding out potentially for them to break. But if you're Miami, the arrogance has to take a backseat for a second and realize that you don't really have a package that is suitable for him and that you will not be able to beat a Jaylen Brown-centered deal should they go in that direction if you're not going to offer up a little bit more. We also mentioned at the top of the show that there is a mystery team being floated out there. I don't know who that is, but the one that makes the most sense is the Los Angeles Clippers, only because they do currently hold the 5th overall pick. It does seem more and more the reporting is kind of focusing in on the Clippers maybe keeping that 5th overall selection. There were reports that they would potentially offer it to Milwaukee, for Giannis. There was reports that maybe they were floating it out to Sacramento and maybe even to flirting with the idea of drafting Darius Acuff with the selection in hopes of getting Sacramento to then trade up for Acuff and take that pick from them. But either way, the Clippers might be a player in all of this, only in the sense of if the Bucks go with Boston, then, of course, that would mean the Heat are left outside looking in and wondering what they would do. And that would be something interesting for the Clippers and then swoop in and potentially offer something in terms of Kawhi Leonard going over to Miami. And all of this matters, is tying up together nicely, as Windhorst reported earlier today that the Clippers all of a sudden are visiting and meeting with prospects that are projected to be drafted at the back end of the lottery. So why would you do that? The Brian Windhorst fingers. Well, that's because maybe you expect that you could either be trading back or maybe by the time the draft comes around, you would be in control of a back-end lottery selection like the Miami Heat selection at number 13. So there's a lot of noise out there. There's a lot going on. But it seems right now, leader in the clubhouse would be Boston to land Milwaukee's best player in its history, in its long history, or one of its best players, in Giannis Antetokounmpo. And we will see if that actually ends up being the case. As far as the College World Series tonight, looking forward to seeing whether or not this is going to wrap up with some excitement as North Carolina is a favorite over Oklahoma for this matchup later this evening over there at Charles Schwab Field in Omaha. $1.50 favorite or so. Circa is the price here. Total's 9.5 shaded to the under at -120. You go back over the two games we saw over the weekend, kind of played out as we talked about with these two teams. Oklahoma beats up North Carolina in the first game of the series with a 9-3 outing. 2 homers in that game. They end up going 5 of 15 with runners in scoring position. Offense, as has been on fire this entire run, comes out and gets them off to a really good start and takes the first game of the series. However, North Carolina evens it up with a very strong performance of its own. And really what the theme is, and what it's going to be here today, I think, is shutting down those Oklahoma bats, coming in, holding the Sooners to just 2 runs, and the more importantly, no homers finally for a Sooners team that has been knocking the cover off of the ball. So we'll see if the pitching holds up here. Glauber, the kid that comes in relief for 5 innings. They are now 29-0. North Carolina is in the games in which he has pitched, but he throws 65 over the weekend. You do wonder, hey man, all hands on deck final game, what the availability is going to be. But this team has been unreal when he has been out there. But as we talked about on Friday with Stormy and the expectations, if you look at everything we have seen from this team, I would still say that logic would dictate that Oklahoma cannot continue to do this, as we saw a little bit yesterday, and we'll see if that plays out here today. So that leads us into the best bets in the recap. Still pending, North Carolina to win the College World Series at -175. Still floating out there. USA to draw with Australia. That was a loser over the weekend as they go out there and get a big win on Friday in their matchup with Australia. That was a 3-1 play, so that one does not get there. We're hoping North Carolina can get this thing done, not only because of the bet, but also because, of course, you like to be right and Stormy to be wrong. Stormy, of course, sitting on Oklahoma to win the College World Series. As far as today is concerned, 2 plays for me in Major League Baseball. Sorry, crew, forgot to send these things in for you, but we're going to add 2 in baseball. The first of which is I'm going to take a shot with the Philadelphia Phillies here against our guy Griffin. We've talked about this a couple of times with Foster Griffin and some of the indicators for him. You are trying to catch that falling knife, to use a cliche one more time, of going up against the guy that does have the profile that he does. When you're pitching to contact, when you're doing the things that he does, and he's been pitching extremely well, it is a little dangerous to try to catch the regression, but I'm going to take one shot with this with Philly at plus 105 to get this done against Griffin and the Washington Nationals. Philly, of course, with the bats they've been playing particularly well, I think they're going to be able to win this thing here today. And as we look at the board too, the other thing that I think is worth playing here, and we discussed this, we'll go with another road team here, slight road favorite, Yankees against Detroit. We'll go with the Yankees at minus 120 against Framber Valdez and the Tigers here. Garrett Cole got some weird pitching numbers here, but I thought Dreamer was with us earlier, made a great point about maybe some of that stuff when you're talking about being unable to challenge hitters, mainly due to a small sample size against a particular opponent who is very good at doing just that. So we'll roll with the Yankees money line and the Phillies money line tonight in baseball. All right, that's going to do it for us. Stormy comes back tomorrow. We'll get into the NHL draft. I believe I can say this. I believe John Buchagras tentatively scheduled to join us later in the week as we will hit the NHL draft. We'll see if the top looks just as locked in as the NBA draft. Speaking of, tomorrow's the day. Looking forward to seeing who's going to be the first overall pick in the association. That's tomorrow. Go to VSiN.com. Check out the NFL betting guide, which is out. Follow the money. Coming up next here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.